Alrighty, so we're doing finance now, so.
And I have two of the members.
No.
And that's fine. I have two of the members of financial management. The biggest increase in my non-salary is right here. We've had
So,
$15,000.
what page are we on?
44.
I know you're,
11. Well, I'll start with 44 first. And I've got 44 right anyway. Gotcha. But one of the big requests is to go ahead and finish up the 2012 Financial Management Act. You know, we've been trying to judge through that thing for years. The problem we've got is, we've got Chronos. Chronos, each department, there's multiple personnel policies and everybody's treating them different. So it's like department after department. My office is currently implementing 5 libraries, almost done with those. We did magistrates since the last meeting, so we're picking up departments. The problem is, we've got several departments left with standalone personnel policies: highway, ECC, circuit court clerk, county clerk. So talking to financial management, the number one recommendation is we've had $15,000 where we pay for some consulting and work with it each year in training. It's been in there for several years. I've been using small amounts of it. One of the things we're going to do, my recommendation is to do an RFQ, bring in a consulting firm along with us, and that's just a WAG because we haven't actually finished the RFQ or anything, and actually hire them and give different points that we want to have and different goals for them, and try to help them finish with their staff, because when you really implement something, you have your staff with their normal job and implementation. That's why it's taking so long. So we're basically putting other things on the back burner, and we're doing implementation. You know, we've implemented this past year, we did the new Chronos payroll software. So when we got done with it, you know, everything was fine and dandy till you get to the end of the year, and what was the W-2s. So I'm spending the week along with the payroll department and Beth over here trying to straighten up W-2s. So we all drop back off of Chronos and budget and everything else. So my best recommendation is right now we put a request for qualifications, bid it, and bring in a consulting firm to knock this thing out.
and I'd like to just step in from financial management and talk about why back in the day we put this in financial management. It's for internal controls. And it's also, I mean, that's the biggest thing in my mind is we need the controls. If we don't, we need finance to start doing more like spot checks and stuff to make sure that we're in compliance everywhere.
So,
But
go ahead.
also we have different departments out there spending a lot of time going back and forth with their manual sheets. There's a lot of time being spent, so we can achieve more with less resources once we get Chronos in.
Also by other timekeeping applications, like.
Yeah, it's really inefficient the way we do it.
So
Yes.
I want to ask, and we're probably going to break my own rule here, so I'm going to say it, and then I think we're going to need to like take it to another spot. But the problem I've wrestled with here is like, what authority do we have? Like, what lever do we have to force?
It's the law.
Yeah.
It's the law.
I get that it's a law, that's wonderful, but nobody cares about the law if you can't enforce it. What enforcement mechanism do we have?
I can tell you what the state told me, and then you've got legal over here. When we were all pondering with the 81 Act, and they were gonna give a finding to Mayor Holt, and he complained, the finding went back to the county commission. Their opinion was, the county commissioners and legislators are under the law. If people don't follow the law, it is your duty to bring them to court and get an order.
And why would we not want to follow it?
I'm not saying we don't, I'm
We
asking,
were told that.
I'm not disagreeing, I'm like
from
saying.
It's the auditor in me.
I know,
I'm
but it's
sorry.
like, no, I get it, I mean, the military
We were told
person
that point
in me
blank.
says like, what gun do I have, right? Like,
Yeah, right.
what capability do I
We
have?
were told point blank from the comptroller's office that it was the duty of the commission to
Oh,
enforce the
man,
law
with that, I'm not.
through the court system.
So we can enforce it, and if they're out of compliance, the courts will get them.
But we
That
would
was
have to
already-
file-
that's
we
kind
would
of
have to
your-
file a suit.
Okay.
Well, it depends on, also, we're looking at if we're supposed to be on Chronos. If they're not submitting payroll records, we're not paying.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're not supporting, if they're not sending in the payroll records, I mean, if
Could we, well, it sounds to me like the answer is consider, and this is where we need to take this would go to legislature, right? We're going past the scope of here, but you gave me the answer. The answer is.
That's what I was
Okay,
told by the
Chris,
comptroller's office, that was at that time. That's been several years back.
Got it. All right.
But where it came to a head is they were gonna give Mayor Holt in my office a finding for not implementing timely the system, actually the 81 with the schools. So he complained and said he had no control. Ultimately, the comptroller's decision, if you look at the findings up there, they said, they gave a finding to the county commission. And there's a finding up in the report. Their comment was that it is the duty of the county commission to enforce it.
Yeah, got
They
it.
didn't, they
And-
just
and
changed the
it
resolution.
really-
So is this, would you agree then that, given that we have a duty to do that, are we at risk if we don't?
I think it sets a bad precedent. You know, you want to make sure that you're enforcing all of our private acts, you know, and that they're applied equally. So it would be something like injunctive relief or declaratory relief or something along those lines.
And-
Is what
If the
remedy
commission's
would be.
expecting to follow the law and everybody likes to sue us, then we're gonna make everybody else follow.
And without like,
Let's talk
let's-
about the other end of, like, say for instance, we talk about purchases. If you read the private act, it says purchases outside the private act are county liabilities. What that really puts me into a position is, technically, I'm paying bills, and I bring it to the committee and discuss it, I'm paying bills that aren't county
That have
liabilities.
nothing.
Technically, I could refuse
Yeah,
them,
I
and
get
you
it.
could go back to court.
So let's, okay, so.
It kind of puts you in a bad spot.
I get it, and
because-
this is, so, I get it, and it's well explained, and we do need to address it, but I feel like this is something that will be addressed in the course of both legislative sessions and budget sessions moving forward.
well, I don't see, if it's going to legislation, it's only if we want to revoke the private act.
Well, no,
Because we
no,
already
would
have the
to make it- We would
legislation.
have to, what we would have to do is have a resolution or some kind of directive to the law department or our legal department to seek relief through the courts. That's what we would.
That's what
need
he's
to do.
referring to.
So if they don't
Yeah, if they
implement, you're
continue
saying?
not to- If certain, choose not to do so after a certain time period, we would, hypothetically, I'm not making a decision here, but we would put out some type of guidance that by this time thou shalt have your folks on Chronos in order to be compliant
That's
with.
what we tried to do before. Now, we were supposed to have had a meeting on the 15th of April where we had all the heads in here, and they were going to, and for some reason,
I have to move forward because we're trying to get the budget.
Yeah,
ready.
so-
Yeah.
And the difficulty,
My
and they're
point
trying
is
to get their
that
budget ready too.
The right thing, the thing we would need
and
to
then we
do
were
is
going to
do
pass
that.
that resolution in order to say, this is the drop dead.
Yeah, and then if
So-
that doesn't happen, then we would seek
Then,
relief, which
then we
is,
would go to
which is why I think
legislation,
it's a.
pass it through that.
And then the one thing is I wanted to talk again about the payback period and how that fits in with this.
Okay.
Is I think that we should do the payback period once they go implement onto
No,
Chronos.
yeah, I understand.
If we had to hold
that
it
part.
together,
That's where we
and,
care.
and I think that we should, this has been dragging around forever. You can even Google and you'll get articles where the newspaper was asking Mr. Holt back in the day, what should we do, what should we do? Here we are. We need a drop dead date. I say if we can't get this done by next year's budget, there's no more
Well,
payback
let's-
for the stuff. We
I mean,
just
th-
go.
That's another option we have, right? I mean, that's another lever we have, but let's do this. Is there any action on this from a budgetary point of view right now that we need to do?
No, I'm just
Well,
putting this
the-
request to do an RFQ, but basically, put it in the budget, because you'd have to pay for it, do an RFQ to get a consultant to help us finish and lift to
Got
get
it.
it out of here.
Got it.
And help us work with the departments to get all their stuff together and make it easier on the departments to implement it too, because you gotta think, my department takes a lot of work to do, but it also affects the other departments, because their number one primary concern is not payroll.
It's their operations.
A lot of it's their operations.
Right.
So if we can get a consulting team in that can help as much as possible, it'll help relieve a lot of that with training,
Okay.
the amount of times their people have to pay to get together. That's my thought process. The 85 may not even be close, but that's a starting point to look. And I'm talking about using the whole 100 to include the 15 we've got for other. The 100 may not even be close either side, but it's, at least you guys know that that's the thought. And it's to help to get it done and to help the departments, because it's gonna cause them some work too.
Gotcha.
What determines whether the 85 or the 100 will get the job done?
We're gonna put a request for qualifications out, make them with goals and benchmarks and times and estimated costs. And what requires to be an overrun, and that can improve on the fact that we come back to budget. Cause I don't want one where we come back and I end up with a bill of $105,000 and try to find an extra $5.
I mean, have you ever talked to any of these consultants and said?
Well, I've done a lot of stuff. We've actually got one right now, they help us intermittently, but since it's a large project, I'm always, you could say professional service and just choose this group and I can move forward. But my point of view is always do a request for qualifications, get the qualifications, grade them, get the best one out there. And this one that we're using may be, or there may be a better one that gives us a proposal. Anytime you spend a lot of money, even if it's not required, it's my recommendation to do a sealed request for qualifications. And it won't be 100% on cost, it'll be 100% in performance, because sometimes low performance is.
I guess we're a little looser in private industry.
And from the
Well, I'm a
internal
little
control,
tired.
from
It's
the
not my
internal
money, so I
control,
kinda do it that way.
I'd just like to say, without like saying anything like where it happened and stuff, we've paid dead employees before. I mean, we need more control around payroll. We need it. We're not gonna talk about who, where, when, but we need this all in one spot, and we need more controls around
Yes,
it.
we do.
And
That's
and we're
our
just
job.
growing.
Okay, so
And we've had recovery funds through the court system before people refusing to pay us back.
I know, it's a
But we need to get the
thing.
holdback period, my point on that one.
Yes.
So on your, and I'm sorry, I'm kind of bringing this back here, on yours,
On the salary, let's pop to the salary.
your total, just rolling it from the bottom up, you're asking for a little more than $250,000 extra year over year.
Well, part of it's the 80, and remember, there's an employee added during the year, and then I'll go up and I'll go look at the salaries, that's where your rest of your, let's see what all we have going on. Some was equipment, other items too, but that's fine. Go back to the bottom, let's go up. This one right here, if you look, we're using, and this is one of the things you guys run into, we're using Microsoft Excel. A lot of formulas, a lot of interlinked stuff. We're using our computers and our laptops, we're having, because of the size and complexity,
Yeah,
we're having
this-
computer issues.
Yeah,
We're asking for more computers next year. That's where that's coming from. Furniture, fixtures, because we got an office up there that's empty where we need to move the purchase for purchasing, and we need actually, furniture for it. That's where that's coming from, that far office over there, the two fixed out. Where is there other increases in bed? Office supplies, you can kind of look, we're already spending more than we've got in there. We brought it up, but I brought some of the items from up and down through there. And then the rest of it involves, what was that? Data processing we actually could decrease. But, let's go up to salaries, and I'll talk about what I've got in there. Got the salaries and the reasoning I came out with the salaries, I should have notes. The first one here is other than the 5%, and mine's based on the highest cost of living limited to 9.5, which is exactly what that right there is. That's limited per contract.
I drank too much water.
You want to stop? Should we stop?
No, go ahead. We went through this in detail yesterday.
Okay. That one right there is the first one. We've got, if I go to this market, that is actually below the 2023 amount, and I have several comparative employees that's been brought in for this employee making more since that time. This one right here, if you click on that right there. This one right here is an employee based on the actual average of two other counties that are like us at the 5% cost of living. That's where that came from. And if you go to the actual market sheet here, that's actually below the market sheet. And then also, another thing that I looked at was this employee is actually on the same level as the county engineer, which is at 141. So that's why I'm asking for that. It's well below market. This one's the financial analyst I hired, got a bachelor's degree. The market rate's about 70, and they asked me, is there anything I can do, because they're about to scout another job, I can tell. Very good employee. This one down here is the purchasing clerk that I actually want to make what we're gonna call the purchasing agent. A purchasing agent for mid-sized counties goes for 113. We're gonna make them a purchasing agent, but they still answering me, so the pay wouldn't be commensurate by any means. And then this one here is the one that's actually the payroll manager, does the Kronos, Munis, and all the rest of them. We've had, that one's just kind of hanging on to see if we can do something. They've got a bachelor's degree also, required for their job, has training for computers because they're doing the Kronos. This one's actually doing the Munis security also up here. But this one, the other day we got the stuff from GFO and everywhere, and it's like in the 90s, and also we start comparing them with job salary survey, they're below the average. The rest of them, I did not ask for 6% or anything additional, because I kind of compared them to the average, and they weren't horribly far off. And these are the ones I consider to be the most likely for turnover also. That's where I came up with the amounts from. But that one, our last salary survey was on the same level as the salary survey as the county engineer that came in about 2 years ago, and this was been here 17 years, 18, in our county. That's where most of mine came from, was in salaries.
Any questions, Mr. Wine?
With the computers you're buying, how many are you buying?
On the computers, we're
Yeah.
hoping to replace, we replace so many every year, but I'm hoping to replace 1 to 2 additional laptops, and it may just be 1.
But I'm wondering back to when we were talking earlier, there's been so many departments. Who has to replace all their computers because they need to be Windows 11?
It was
Law
the
office.
Property
assessor.
assessor, but not before 20.
No, it was,
Assessor.
no,
The
not the law,
assessor.
I know the law office is.
Property
Assessor.
assessor.
Property assessor.
The assessor's office,
No,
yeah,
It's not this year, it's by 2026.
2026.
He's doing
Okay.
3 this year.
All right, I'm sorry.
David, are you gonna stay with Excel, or do you have to get a,
This is what I have, and that's something we need to look at, our long-term planning, you know. The end of this year is my contract, and the end of next year is the end of my optional contract, which I'm probably gonna stay at the end of it. But in the long-term planning, I did put something in there to do something about the budget software. My feeling about the budget software, Munis is not gonna do what we've got in Excel by any means. Your next person is definitely not gonna want 2 Excel sheets from me with thousands upon thousands
It's
of
stuff that
thousands.
you know and only you know, like it's,
And there's thousands of formulas too in there, and I mean, they're gonna spend, I have in there as an estimate, you're probably gonna spend at least about $500,000 to get that all.
I mean, honestly, it's something we, for the size of this organization, and it's kind of like I said, similar thing I was just saying, library folks, I appreciate you trying to be in on this, but like at some point, we're gonna have to pull a trigger on a true accounting software system.
And we have Munis's budget, but it will not produce anything like these documents or payrolls or stuff you've got in one budget.
Yeah.
You're going to, and I had the former IT director, and they started looking at it, but we started showing them kind of what we had and the cost went. So we dropped back and punted. So right now, if you look at like your payroll stuff, how I know those are accurate, your employee numbers are in there, and I actually import tables from our payroll system. So we know things are accurate, and I have a lot of check numbers, but there's a lot of VLOOKUPs, imports,
Yeah, you're moving
tables.
stuff, because when you're doing these roll-ups, you're moving stuff.
And it
It's a
got,
complex spreadsheet.
and it got complicated enough this year with all the new salary changes in the ARPA that I went and reworked most of the budget payroll about to Beth a stroke because we started importing munis to make sure we captured the stuff.
So that brings me to another point of view when we start talking about long-term planning, and that is your replacement. Like, at some point, we're gonna, I don't want to, unless the universe is really dislikes me, I don't plan on being budget chairman forever, but I would not want to be budget chair the first year you're gone without having somebody, who's had like, a few months of left seat, right.
I'll tell you right now, I will give you 6 months before I leave, I'll let you know.
And that would,
Even on the
we'll
option.
need to.
I said 60 days, but I'm gonna tell you December, if I want to see, can you just stay?
So, yeah, but I mean, if we think about that, I mean, it'll take a couple months to find a qualified replacement, so that's not a ton of, even then. We probably need to be, my point here is that we probably need to be on like a soft look now.
I agree.
And not to be a bearer of other, there are several executive members that they're planning to retire a few years right after I leave.
David has no bench.
At least 2 more are planning to.
So I'm just-
In the next 2 years after
We just need to plan for, it's just change management, and I mean, it's not gonna get bent out of shape over it, but we're gonna need to be thoughtful about it.
that. But we did put in the long-term planning, the thing to deal with 2 things. One, and when you get long-term planning sheet, there's $500,000 in there for trying to unwind this from Excel into a set system where somebody would feel comfortable. Honestly, if I came, and I've worked on these sheets I've developed over the years, if I came into this county with that Excel sheet, I would want to spend 3 months making sure there wasn't issues with it.
Yeah, no, and I think that is best spent when you're on board.
Probably best spend getting away from Excel.
No, that's what I'm saying, like, you get Excel but while you're here, and so
Right.
you can explain the logic.
So I have two questions. When you're talking about the budget system, are you talking about us, in addition to Munis? Or are you talking about a whole nother accounting package?
Your ERP requires them to all
That's what I was wondering.
To be together, but they can migrate between each other, like just like you have Kronos and Munis. I've looked at the Munis, what came with Munis. When we originally bought Munis, they offered some, the consultant said there was additional packages we may want to add in.
Like we got the grant module.
The grant module sits in there in Munis. But Munis has a package where it will allow us to send these, something similar to request over to the departments. But the problem you've got when you go into Munis, it's not a tier 1 ERP like an SAP or an Oracle. So you're very limited on what you can do. The only way to get around that is to do another complete set of software that will import and export between Munis. That's what I'd recommend, because you're not going to get what you want by any means of imagination if you do it the other way. We can implement the Munis one right now over the next several months, but it's not going to get what you want. Where you're seeing the pretty colored budget and all the sheets where I can pull them up, that's all going to vanish. You're basically going to get, I look at a Munis scenario where you add a 1% cost or 2% cost or very limited scenario. I mean, it's very limited. It's not by employee.
What
We
do
spent
other
quite a bit of
counties
time
do?
looking at it. I don't know.
Can you call and ask them?
We can call and ask them, but they may not do the same level of detail you're doing either.
I understand. We gotta start somewhere. I mean,
So the best thing to do is it may be that we create a subcommittee exploratory, figure out what other counties are doing, what you're willing to pay for, and what you really want. If you're willing to, if other counties are doing it with less detail, if you're okay with less detail.
we're gonna lose detail because CTAS tells me they don't see anything like what David provides us with. Nobody else gets this detail.
I mean, that's kind of crazy you don't.
I mean, it's just
not out.
it's just not out there. It's not.
Beth can tell you what was here when I got here. How long did it take you to go through the budget when I got here?
Month?
Was there any detailed payrolls in there?
No.
How was the insurance handled? It was one lump?
One lump sum at the bottom of the sheet.
Hope you do
Your
well at the
salaries had no
end.
details in those lines. The revenues had, what was it, they seen where things were going and kind of put them there, looking to keep historicals. We have like, what, 20 years going back now?
So, I mean, bottom line here, we're gonna have a few things that we're gonna need to consider. We're getting outside, because we're talking now, I think, more toward long-term planning, but we're gonna need, some amount for a double-up salary to run parallel for some amount of time. Potentially for 2 personnel, maybe, at least one. We're gonna need one-time upfront transition. Now, some of that will be rolled into that personnel, that individuals that are coming on, but we'll need one-time upfront for software purchase and implementation. And then you're gonna need ongoing maintenance and licensing fees for that software. So, I mean, we're gonna need, it's a thing that we probably need to start planning for now and beginning to execute over the next 2 years.
The more you can link it into your ERP, the better.
Can we have a deadline of maybe by December having 2 options or 3 options for the software?
Yeah, because we'll be done with the budget.
Yeah, so can we ask for that right
Yeah.
now? Just, by December, let's see what our options are. Pick your favorites.
Well, what we'll do is start exploring what other counties
Yeah.
are doing and let you determine what you want. Because the question is, we can probably find about anything and even have people write about how much do you want to spend on it.
Yeah.
And then I think the other item is I don't think we should have a decision today, but how long do we want David shadowed for? I mean, we're saying some amount of time, but I want to start thinking about it. Is that 6 months? Is that 9 months?
I would go a year.
I would go a year too, but I was afraid y'all go no.
Yeah.
I
I'd
mean,
go.
I don't know that we, I mean, I don't know. that
And I
we-
don't want to make a
We
decision.
don't
I
need
just
to-
want to
we
say
just
we
need to
need
think
to
about it.
start thinking about it and talking about it.
The only thing I can say, a really big positive in doing a longer term shadowing is, shadowing will take some of your time, but not all of it. If they were shadowing, it would be more of availability, and I could take all that time to actually implement a new software
That's right.
package where they
And it could be a part-time thing during the shadow for their.
throw, because the implementation of the budget package is gonna be a whole job again on its own. Because you hire consultants and you think they do the work, you hand the work over to them to help you how to do the work, and it's like another job. We were surprised when we did the ERP for Munis. Writing like the general chart of accounts, that was the biggest confusion ever, and I don't know, they weren't helpful. I finally figured out how I wanted it. It's a very good chart account, it works great, but it was, they showed you how to do it, and you do all the work. We had to do all the conversions and pretty much all of it. And this is how you do it, and on a phone call, and spent like 2 hours with us and charged us $1,000, and then we spent 2 weeks, and they gave us a deadline of 2 weeks, and then we spent 2 weeks with an extra 40 hours overtime to get it done. So they're not fun little things to deal with.
So anything, just getting back to your initial track, this is a good discussion, and we are ahead, so that's all right. So anything more for David on this next year's budget?
Well, the only thing I would say is we can't make any of the decisions until we know what's out there. If, because at some point we're gonna have to say, okay, we're gonna buy this software, we're gonna have to find somebody who's really good on Excel to continue what you're doing. Once we make that decision, then we determine how long it needs to be shadowed, because if it's an off-the-shelf software, it won't take as long for him to shadow. But if it's Excel, depending on that person's ability to do Excel.
I don't think you.
I-
look,
I don't think you can take an
is-
Excel,
Excel
yeah.
is not sustainable here for that much longer.
David has too many macros and everything
Yeah,
else in
it's-
there.
it's
It's
gonna
just,
cause
it's
a computer
too
crash.
custom.
Yeah, it's.
It works great, and it gives us a fabulous product, and it's been on the cheap all these years.
Right.
But
There's also a lot of things that get built into it that you
Mhm.
have to dig and dig and dig.
yeah,
into.
and you break it.
And it's,
Oh.
remember, we broke it last year very briefly.
You gotta remember something else. We do it as a shared document, so there's I have up to 5 people
Mhm.
working on this document.
Yeah.
If Excel itself messes up because we have a network lag, it gets confused and throws everybody out, and we may
Well,
lose 4 hours.
Excel
worth
can
of
also
work.
do an update
Yeah.
that can change formulas if you.
We've gotta make sure everybody's on the same version, or it throws everybody into a loop, make sure nobody's doing circular references.
It's so
It doesn't
Excel's
have to
not
go
the
down
way.
down.
It's-
No, it's not stable. It's just not.
And we'll be in the middle of something, and David will be off on a Hawaiian island, and we'll be dead in the water.
And this is
And we'll all be
good.
going, what?
Go to the salary and then hide
Let's
some of
do
this.
this.
formulas and
What are we at in
stuff.
terms of time here?
Do you wanna link an MOE for schools, because you discussed it earlier?
Yeah, let's-
Dr. Langford's asked me if I'm gonna be able to provide him what you guys are gonna provide. us with.
Let's look at the schools. Let's do that.
It's on that revenue sheet back we were looking at this morning.
Let's discuss it.
It's on, local revenues there, that purple tab. And if you go to the right, just click till you see there, and then go down to when you see, keep going. Okay, keep going. Keep going, it's going down till we get the total, we can kind of give them the vote. If you give the schools the same percentage of property tax on the new certified rate, not the same pennies, because pennies are gonna change, but the same percentage based on the amount of wheel tax they'll get and sales tax that they've got to get. That's how much more their budget will be than last year. But as you know, the last year's budget was MOE, so they were actually getting more anyway.
10.7.
But that's not including, that is not increasing the MOE to 10.7, that's just.
We would increase it to that dollar. If you gave them that, amount, then, it increases them to that dollar.
Wait, well, right now, I mean, MOE is 126, right?
Right, copy that.
You're talking about the 10,000, that's above, that's not going against the MOE.
Copy this over there, baby.
Copy this.
Yeah, copy it over there. No, not to that one, so you copy it on over that one too. No, copy the formula, not just the fixed amount. Sorry, I wasn't clear. Copy the
To this one?
the formula right there, you go. Yeah, it would change it to that plus that should be that 137,
What, okay.
just like.
So MOE does go up. I think
So we-
that-
There's a
I
difference
think that's what
between-
you're
talking about If you don't change the percentage.
If
is that
we
what you're
don't
saying?
change the ratios.
Right, exactly.
Say it's a
So if
school
we
is.
leave the penny allocations the way they are,
It increases the MOE.
it will increase the MOE without negatively impacting the rest of the budget. I mean,
Yes.
that's the assumption.
Or we
It's
can-
more than an assumption,
You
it's.
can reduce the penny, the percentages, so just give
And
them
it
money.
just, we
It doesn't
could, we
increase.
have an $8 to $10 million, I mean, here's so about 10, where we could pull it. I mean, and we would be legal by the,
MOE.
by MOE, because MOE is a flat amount. But last year, we gave the extra, we left it alone, I think it was about $3.5 million.
No, it's about,
No.
it's about 9.
9.
So, well, no, this year's gonna be. what,
No,
10?
9
Oh,
last year. You
no,
weren't
this
here
was
yet.
9. So.
Yeah, because I budgeted sales tax flat I budgeted sales tax and will tax flat. So you only got picking up property tax, so it was about 9 some million. If you go up here, Beth, it'll show, go one.
So, I mean.
It's what the federal government says. If you don't raise it by this much, then you're cutting it.
No, I mean,
Right here.
you could, I mean, we
Mhm.
could.
That's what we're estimating they're bringing in extra over top of their actual budget. The reason, if you remember last year, discussion was to tell them to budget MOE, but leave the percentage of property tax the same.
Yeah.
And budget sales tax and will based on the prior year, even though we know it's gonna be more. So that's how much they're gonna bring in above, that's the estimate of what they're gonna bring in above revenue this year. Now, if we leave, go down, Beth, just a little bit. If you leave them at 60.87% of the new estimated revenue we're gonna bring in, not the same pennies, then right now it should be, some of those are gonna change their amounts. It should be somewhere, it's right there. It should be somewhere around 10.7 million. So, and these are based on no certified rates, these are based on estimated property tax, not knowing the certified rate.
Yeah.
Not knowing exact.
I mean, there is some, which is why, so let me ask this.
And I put 0.9% growth on your property tax, and it's been historically anywhere, the lowest I've ever seen is 1 up to 3 or 4, so we
Yeah, but-
think the certified rate will produce more than that, unless something really weird happens.
Kevin, you just pointed at a 60.87%. Is that of our total budget?
That's of your tax, of your property tax.
Strictly the property tax?
They are, they are currently $1.37.09 of your 2.252 rate. Can you move that a little bit?
Okay, so that's what
I
we're,
can't look at this phone.
but they also get a sales tax number?
Yes, the sales tax, the second 50% has to be used for school purposes, and it has to be by, so we're using, right now, we take the counties and the schools and we put it all together, the whole amount. We put 66.66% to schools, 33.333% in debt service. And that's the division's been here for 30 years. Now, the other thing they get is your wheel tax, but that was based on referendum. And I believe it's 70% they receive and 30% highway. I can look at the exact percentage.
Yeah, I mean, I would not be in favor of changing the ratios. I mean, they're good, consistent. I know that's a good bump, but. I mean,
But
there's
the thing
things-
is we have the other county, the rest of, we got the non-school people. Their request are, we're 7 or 8 million above.
You need to go.
We need to cut
Well, we're gonna-
out of the county piece, so,
Well, if you count highway, his is in bad shape too, remember totally.
I mean, I'm just saying,
No, I
we've
get
got,
it. Well,
we've
I
got a
think-
big problem over here
So I think. but here's
before
the
just
thing.
saying yay.
Well, I mean, we can do the one first, right? I mean, maybe the right thing to do is go through the rest of the county first
Yes.
and see, make sure that we've got all that, and then. if we
Yeah,
can
that's what I'm
get to-
at.
Then we come back and revisit this.
Remember, your
Yeah.
debt service has a revenue excess and a very large balance that some of it needs to be bled off.
So here's my, I'll go ahead. So this, I had, we were in there and I went through this really quickly, but here's my opinion here. And this is broad strokes, like kind of strategic look. I'm not, Jerry, we're way better when we get to the tactics, but I think that what we're broadly looking at is we've got $10 million of recurring revenue that we will have from debt service that we will no longer, if we choose to continue to service it, we'll actually get penalized and we'll be paying the federal government for nothing. So effectively we've got, in addition to the additional revenue that we have from sales tax, we have that $10 million, which is coming off. We've got, so hold that over here, because it's recurring. So in everything salary-wise recurring that the counties, or excuse me, that the county employees, not schools, are asking for, it's about 10 million bucks. So of that, it's roughly 2.7, I think, is the 5%, which we said start here. So that 5%, we started with 2.7.
Million.
It's 2.7 million, so, you know, then we've got another 7.5 that they asked for on top of it. So my thought, you know, we've seen a lot today that I don't think that all that 7 is justified. I think we go through that 7, we start with the 2.7 over here, that's gonna be covered. We try to whittle that 7.5 down a bit, cut that down into about half. That gets us a lot closer to the 5 million recurring. So we've got 10 million recurring. We take half of that. I think we shoot for, you know, 5.5 this year. We're still putting money in the bank. We're still actually doing better than we were last year because we've got that extra additional revenue. That's more that we can play with next year in order to continue, you know, kind of being good, predictable, and growing kind of judiciously. So that's what I think we would do in order to handle the recurring salary on the county side. If we can hit that, then I think we can leave this as it is. If we can't quite get there, then maybe we dip into this a little bit, but I think that's what we shoot for. Now let's talk about capital expenditure side, because there are quite a few of those too.
Another thing you need to remember, if you remove the 5, because it's gonna be one general permanently, you still have the 5, and a huge balance already.
That's what I'm about to talk about. That's what I'm about to talk about. So we've got 5 over here that we would still get penalized on. So we take that 5 and we move that over to capital. And that gives us some flexibility on capital, and I actually agree with you. I think we need to burn down our reserve, if you wanna call it, which is sitting over in.
Yes, I mean, the
and so
government
then-
doesn't want us to have the citizens' money making
That's right.
profit. I mean, there's no allowable
So what
that.
we've got here is, we will pull a total of 15 million out of debt service, 10 of which is coming from the recurring, which is net. Another 5 we burn down off of our reserves, which are currently sitting in debt service. We can therefore handle most of our capital expenditures. We may need to whittle those down a bit. We'll be able to take care of all the county employees. We won't be able to give them everything we want, but we will be able to give them about 60% across the board of what they want, maybe 70, and then we'll still be able to take care of the schools or get there close. That's how I think we ought to try to play this.
What about the highway? Go click over to highway.
We need to look, let's show everybody highway and what kind of how that looks before that's its own monster.
And so that, and again,
Yeah,
I agree with Jeremy. I think we should push schools to the end of county top.
I agree with you.
So,
I think we all agree.
and
But we really need to do.
And
this
putting numbers
2.5
just to be
million.
putting numbers, I think we should put numbers like services that are needed, not like, well, here's some money, go have it.
Well, no, but I mean,
You know?
they've asked for what they've asked for, right? I mean, they've asked for what they've asked for, and I've got all these aggregated up. They've asked for what they've asked for, and I'm.
Have they
looking over
finished their
here.
budget yet?
Who? The
Schools.
schools? The schools have not.
They're waiting for me to
The
provide.
schools are waiting to provide some level
To see how
of-
much we'll
of
give them?
guidance.
Yes.
To see how much is there, and then they'll,
Well, that's not gonna stop them from asking.
They're just asking for, I don't think.
what do
they're-
they need? I mean, that's what that's what I'd want, is, I guess that's why this conversation feels awkward, is like, what are their needs? They're waiting to see what,
So-
it just feels awkward.
It is, I mean, it's this chicken and an egg kind of thing. I mean,
Tax increase.
to be fair, I mean, I think they've only had, they've had limited time to fully prepare because the state has gone back, because of the voucher issue. They didn't know how much they were gonna get from the state for the longest
Their
time.
money was not gonna be affected by the
That was-
state. That
well,
that had
that
absolutely
was all new
nothing to
money.
do with it.
Well,
They were told that their money would be solid.
yes, they were told that.
I
but
mean,
there
we're
were
told
two
that all the
different-
time,
there were
too.
two
Let's go
different
back to that
bills
one.
were competing with it too, so.
Yeah, that shouldn't
anyway.
have affected them.
In any case, I mean, I have a little bit of sympathy on that. If I'm told, hey, we get a pretty good estimate of what we're gonna get. That's a little different. We don't rely on the state the way they do.
They should more be saying that it's the TISA formula that they don't know, not the vouchers. I'd buy the TISA. We don't know what TISA's given us, and we got that one I'd buy, but not the voucher. But I do see that they're,
So, I mean, in any case, you're not wrong that there's this chicken and egg. At the end of the day, I think the decision here is, let's do the county stuff first. Let's make sure that this gets taken care of, and then we'll come back and revisit. Does that make sense? All right. David, I know we're ahead.
Now, on the highway, we talked about it some this morning, but if you look, we're showing the 2.4 negative, let's kind of recap it, going down, Beth. Two
What
things.
page
The-
is highway?
The state wants you to have 2 months of reserves, just like a general fund, and any operating fund, that wouldn't include your capital fund, debt, or courthouse and jail. So that means he's about 4.7 from what they want to see. If you don't have a minimum of
103.
half that much,
103.
then they actually give you a note from the state saying you are deficient. They'll actually tell you you're deficient. So right now, we're looking back at his appropriations, can you click it, but the big ask he's asking for is asphalt increases. That's right, that one, not, which one is it? Yep, that's where he's getting, he's asked for $4 million in a local asphalt, and he had, I'm sorry, 2 million more than he got last year. That's where most of his, is coming from, he's asking for asphalt, not employees or anything elusive, it's asphalt for the road.
So but that 2 million is actually a large chunk of what we need to, of what's putting him over his budget, right?
Yeah, he's asking.
And because of the requirement for 2 months operating.
Because he's told you, as Toby said, there's 2 things, that asphalt and steel, and that's been under massive inflation, everything has it, that's one of the.
Yeah, but it flattened a little bit last year, didn't it? I mean, so.
Still pretty bad, and then the other thing is same thing that Ms. Harden said, is there's a big backlog of county roads that need repaired.
So how many roads did we get paved this year? I mean,
Miles?
yeah,
We
because
need-
what he was
we need
aiming for
him here to-
54?
415.
Yeah.
How many?
415.
Oh, that's how many we have?
No, that's when he's supposed to be here.
Oh, at 415.
Yeah, I do know that I think we targeted to shoot for like,
54 miles?
no, less, I mean, he might have hit.
52?
I was right
50.
around-
I mean,
No, we used
No,
to
we
do
used
30,
to
he
do
went
30.
way up.
Yeah, he
We
was
went-
like 50 is what he.
Yeah.
30
he
was
was shooting
150,
like-
did you end up doing 45?
But that's the question, we need to know
You
what he
gave
actually
him, you
did.
gave him ARPA money's how he did it, for 2 years, that's what's helped him out, now the ARPA money is
It's off.
gone, and you really can't do it again past December
We
anyway.
couldn't do it anyway.
Even if you used some of the money.
so we're
I
on
know, like,
hold
my
until
road
4:15?
Yeah.
They can go over
But
there
can't
later.
But I'm afraid
No,
to ask.
he's
So
not
David, I
here.
do have a question here.
Oh,
What
health
have we
department, you
used-
gotta
Health
do that.
department's on.
Yeah, he's on the list, but he's not here yet.
Hey,
He's not
David?
gonna be here.
Oh, okay, do you wanna go over health
Well, no,
department?
before we do that, I have a question though, and we can talk about it more later. But, so could you potentially set aside some in capital?
This is what we do right now, you've got what's equivalent to 1 penny, and it'll be a less amount this coming here, because you'll get the same dollars, but it's put over in capital for, equipment. We can put money in the capital projects for asphalt.
That's what I'm saying, so that reduces
Let
this.
let me tell you 2 things that might caution. If you call CTAS, they'll tell you that you won't report it on your maintenance of effort, because they only report certain revenues on the maintenance of effort in the highway fund. However, if you read the reasoning they do that, it's based on local funding or maintenance of effort. So if you got into the biggest argument, I think technically that does go to the MOE, but
But I like that better, because we pulled it in capital, and it doesn't go to MOE.
it don't go into the calculation, but I think the argument would be the actual.
They'll go back
law
and
with
pull it
intent
in
that does.
anyways.
Well, that's,
Yeah.
all. I mean, either way, my point here is that, well, so are you saying that they're gonna go try to pull it in, and they're still gonna apply this to
Here's
us?
what I'm thinking. When they apply the MOE test, it's based on local revenue, so they're gonna take the local revenue numbers in the highway department only. CTAS is the one doing it, but if you read back to why the MOE's there, it's based on local maintenance of effort. We're paying for that asphalt through this capital projects fund with property tax for a highway purpose. I think it's very argumentative, even though they reported it that way, that technically your MOE may include that, just like.
I
this
would
one.
argue it would be in it.
We could,
CTAS
I would
said it
argue
won't be,
for
but
the
I'm very
opposite,
cautious.
but.
I'm cautious. I'm super cautious if I think there's a gray area. I think it's very gray there.
If he's asking for 4 million, I'll have to give him the 4 million either.
You're saying that you're arguing for, I just hear you saying, no matter what you do, you're increasing MOE. That's what I'm hearing.
That's my
But
concern.
he thinks that was what CTAS may argue back.
And
No, see,
we
that's
can
gonna
have a
say it,
slight
yeah.
trick to make it look different.
Well, yeah,
That's
what
where
I'm
we're
trying
at.
to
Matt's
do.
saying there's a slight trick, and
Well, I'm
and
okay
David's
with
like,
that,
let's be
but also
cautious.
Local sales tax revenue excessive.
So, I mean, but the real question is what, I forget who asked, it was like, how many actually got paid, like, let's, yeah, like.
True, but
Highway.
I'm looking at that extra money from our local option sales tax, that percentage, and you wanna get all the schools, I'm like, no, we're gonna back.
Well, I mean,
So-
we can look at it. Let's see what they're gonna do here.
It's not function, to make the road drivable too, so
Is the MOE even a factor? I mean, asphalt's not gonna go down in price.
If the price ain't gonna go down, you're not gonna get rid of roads, and we're as efficient as we can, then the long term, and you're, what does he say, 30 miles behind or 300 or some god awful
That's a
amount.
lot.
They were paving.
And you're
30
never gonna
miles a
catch up.
year, and he wanted to pave like 54 miles a year.
Yeah, we
I think
got it
did
like 46,
45 or
yeah.
48.
So if that calculations, if you funded that extra $2 million,
But,
you're never gonna fix all the roads still.
I
Never
mean,
gonna
I
do it.
gotta
As long as you got the
say,
funding, it's never gonna be an issue.
you're not gonna get any argument from anybody throughout the county that we need to be paving fewer miles. Like, so but I am interested if we actually hit it, like, what did we actually hit? Because there is a point where, you know, there's only so many miles that, with the equipment and personnel that we have, we can buy all the asphalt in the world. I mean,
Right.
probably he's hitting about what he can hit, and we just need to give him whatever it is to allow him to hit that number.
Well, because if he's got only so much equipment and individuals, he's only got two choices. Get more equipment and individuals, or asphalt, or contract out to have the asphalt laid, which is a little more expensive.
Yeah, which we don't wanna do.
Well, we don't unless we know exactly what it costs him to pave a foot or a mile.
Well, we calculated that last year. We
So I'd
calculated
like to
it.
see that calculation, because I don't understand that
He's
calculation.
coming.
He's cheap.
It is cheap.
You wanna
He was
call
cheap.
the health
He
department.
was cheaper than any
Well,
other.
I've never.
Yeah, he's cheaper than other counties
For
too.
years, so I don't know.
Does everybody
Well, I
want
just
to
get-
look at?
Yes, please.
Would you
Okay,
guys
health
look-
department.
Health department had an accident, he fell off a ladder.
Fell off a ladder.
He fell off a ladder, so I
At
told him
work?
I present his
All right, go
budget,
ahead.
his
At
precinct.
work?
Hal fell off a ladder?
Yes.
Yeah, he's like gonna
Okay.
be out till,
Mid-June.
gonna be out till mid-June.
Okay, Hal has two big groups of
Gonna be
employees,
out till
okay?
mid-June.
What page?
Page number, I'm sorry, page number 66. But if we can, we'll start on the salaries and I'll explain his two big things he's got on here.
Okay.
He's got one VGA, which is called direct grant access, and it's completely flowed through the county. It's the majority of his employees, it's the majority of his costs. He also has state employees you won't see on here at all. That way, when you look at his budget here and you go to his health department, you know he has a bigger operation than you expect, because those are paid directly by the state. But his DGA directly flows through. The way the state's working now, because you guys agreed you're gonna go with the state raises because you didn't want to fund the additional, which was the correct choice. There's no raises in here because the state won't know what the raises are, he said about August or September. So there's no raises in here, and I made it pink the way you guys would be aware, and I remember to tell you about that. Then we go back up. This section here is the county funded employees. He's asked for the 5% plus the 6 to come into these totals right here. And he has a total, I think, of 4 employees, 4 in one part. Is that correct?
Yes.
So he's talking about
3 in
Employees
one part.
11% increase on.
Well, that's what a lot of them.
Is a custodian a janitor?
Secular libraries.
Are those interchangeable?
What now?
Custodians and janitors are
Is-
interchangeable.
Well, custodian, somebody that cleans and does stuff, a janitor is usually janitor.
I'm just wondering, when I
think he
compare
does.
them, what I'd like to know
I think
is-
it's pretty
He
much
like,
I think he
he's like a
does.
courier sometimes and stuff too.
I think he does some minor maintenance stuff
Yeah.
too.
And then if we can go back to the main front page over here, because he didn't ask for a whole lot of stuff. And he would have been here, but he fell off and got hurt. So you notice he didn't request hardly anything through there to
Nothing.
DG, and then I think he asked for 5, so no, he didn't.
So what's the $33,000 increase just on?
So, which one are we
It's
looking at?
health
I'm just talking about his
insurance.
total.
Health insurance.
That's basically-
277, 301.
it's
Full
salary.
I don't think he asked for nothing else.
salary and benefits.
Yeah, it's because they changed.
It's just a raise, so.
His health rate.
The health insurance had a 5% rate increase, but if somebody changed type of coverage, you'll do that, or if they didn't take insurance the year before and they opted to take it this year. And we don't, historically, the budget committee of the commission has not held that against departments because you don't want to put a position where you put pressure on departments to discriminate against hiring people families, because it's illegal. It's concerning in
Because it's
multiple
illegal
issues. And it's still concerning because we like, and I've looked at the demographics for years and the calls. The family we fund the most into, the employees, the least, employee plus ones most. On average, your employee plus ones cost as much as your family from the demographics. Your employee plus one's a lot more empty nesters and they get more expensive per person.
I was looking at.
Even though we fund more, we do it into one big group to
And-
cost it.
Since we have time.
What's health department DG?
That's the direct grant access, and it's a completely flow-through grant. That funds.
Oh, that's the flow through, okay.
Since we have a minute, if I could go off in the weeds really deep, because with health insurance from the insurance board, our consultants have told us about Osimpa.
Which one are we
What's the
talking?
drug?
Ozempic.
Ozempic.
Yeah.
So, just for general information, while we're talking about healthcare,
It's weight loss.
That's
so.
where it's really a diabetic medication.
It is a diabetic medication. So what I want to let you know is at the beginning of last month, or in a 12-month period, whenever we're at, in the beginning, like the first 6 months of that, we were just paying for that for anybody that got the prescription. But our consultants went in with Blue Cross Blue Shield, and they made it just so if you're pre-diabetic that you would get it. So this drug right now isn't costing that much as things go, according to our consultant. So we're at about 113, I think she said around 113 people are on this, but we are looking at potentially this drug could go to $1,000 a month. She just yeah.
Per prescription,
Yes.
so.
So I want to let you know that. I mean, our health, our trust, our insurance trust fund is very healthy. But this is an issue that the consultant did want to bring to my attention.
Did they say why this was?
This is the problem
Why it's that way? Because it can be, I mean.
No, it's
But here's
PBMs, man.
the issue you've had for years. Your prescription drug as a percentage of your insurance has been growing much faster than anything.
Yes.
It's becoming a larger and larger percentage. The trust looked at dividing the prescription section off and bidding it and doing certain things. The state went in the same year and approved a law that was supposed to help small pharmacies and stopped all that.
Yes, this hurt us really
So
bad.
you really probably need to urge your state legislators to repeal that. It's costing businesses and the county a lot of money. It was made to protect small pharmacies, and it really doesn't do that at all.
Which
Who
one
puts
was
the
this?
legislation?
Maybe we should go there
Say,
right now.
say, what is it? What
The
is it?
consultants could talk to you
It
about
was
it.
supposed to protect.
We went over that.
I don't remember, it's been a couple of years back, but it was supposed to protect small pharmacies, and what it did is prevent us
But
from.
that bill never,
We'll get.
Do you know when that bill was, can you tell us more about that?
It's
So
been
we
a couple years
discussed
back.
it, was it in the January meeting?
Yeah.
You can watch our film in January. Bethany, our consultant, explains it. I don't.
Brittany.
From what financial management?
No,
It's-
SIB.
The self-insurance.
So, and I think from budget and also from the commission, we are beefing up the insurance board some so that we can take more of a look at where we're at in these items and bringing some items in. But while we got time, if I can dive into insurance just a little bit.
What did the bill specifically do?
It was supposed to address protecting small pharmacies, but it was really,
Yeah, but I mean, what did it?
that was what it was for. It's been a couple of years back. And at the time, we were actually in the process, or the committee was, of actually getting actuarials done and hiring consultants to look about dividing out the prescription drug coverage separately, the way that basically the county would get a fixed cost with a vendor. And it would run through the mail order and through certain vendors. It would save us a lot of money because it's an escalating cost. When it changed, it made the savings disappear. And our consultant could probably,
Mm-hmm.
can you make a note to send Bob Sheep an email if he could send some kind of little summary, or him or Brittany on that bill and the bill number and all?
Brittany would like to, she has a lot of knowledge
Yeah,
on
I'd
it.
like to read it and see.
I want to know all about this. bill.
Well, we covered it some in the insurance video.
And that
You
was
can
in
see it.
January, you said?
And I just don't.
Bob,
remember
was it
that.
January? So I just want to let you know that, that is a thing in our insurance that does trouble me more than any of the other stuff. But our insurance trust is healthy. One thing that we haven't done in the past is report those numbers to the main commission. So I'd like to take this time to ask y'all, are you interested? I mean, it's a lot of numbers where they're late at night. I don't think anybody
They're on
can
the
even
financial
absorb it.
manage- They're on the
This guy right here.
financial report we do.
It's this guy right here.
So if y'all are okay with just what you're getting, that's good.
I think so.
Yeah, so I know what this is. I understand why they did it, honestly. So I think what you're talking about is,
I think
this
it's
was
take small pharmacies.
SB 1617 and HB 1398.
SB what?
Uh,
Slower.
SB 1617 and HB 1398. So I actually think, so man, this is one of these that on face value, I kind of would agree with it, because I understand why they're doing what they're doing, but I see it also why it has a secondary order problem. So you have to know what a pharmacy benefit manager is, so these are like your Optums and your CVS Caremarks, and what they do is they will dictate a schedule of rates, and I can tell you more about this later because it's way off. They'll dictate a schedule of rates, and they're these middlemen. And so they can be very opaque in what an actual cost of a drug is. This attempted to kind of make them be more transparent, but in so doing, for certain drugs, part of the way they do it is by undercutting prices with loss leaders. And so you can get hosed on certain drugs, and that's exactly what has probably happened here.
We're getting hosed a bunch in the county.
Yeah, this is, I bet that's
So
what it
can
was.
we, Toby, we're all finished with everybody except you, can we?
Yeah, go ahead.
We're all caught up, Toby. It's your turn.
So, all right, back on topic here.
Let me tell you what page Mr. Toby's on. He is on page number,
So Toby,
page number 103, and it is, salaries are on the board. Just call Toby.
come on up.
We're in the next city testing.
Thanks, I didn't have. One thing I wanted to talk about, of course, on the last page of my budget, it shows that it's an increase overall of 27%. One thing that me and David has done in the last 2 years is we backed out the state aid funding in the asphalt column. And I've got $1,785,000 for state aid for this coming year. And of course, I know me and David know it, and I know some of y'all know it, some of you might know it, is that 98% of that money is coming back. So once we do the projects that equal the 1.785 million, 98% of that money comes back to us once we complete the jobs.
The state pays us.
The state pays us back. So of that 3 million that's giving us the 27%, if you back that out, it backs down to 11% increase. So that's something I wanted to be very clear on, is that the state pays us, just as soon as we get the jobs done, we turn everything into them, and then they pay us back within, it's usually about 3 to 4 weeks. So when you look at our budget, overall, of an increase of 1.2 million, which is around 11-point-something%, with the inflationary cost of all my materials, like asphalts went up $6-7 a ton across the board. Aggregates are anywhere from 15 to 18% increase in cost. And the concrete didn't go up as bad. Concrete, I think, was 3-4 tons a yard. I was expecting it to be a little higher. I was glad it wasn't. So, the thing that has really been kicking my tail is the roads that we're doing. Of course, me and Matt talked, with the maintenance of effort, because we got 800 miles of roadway, we're shooting for around 50 miles a year. And we're getting, if we do 50 miles with our new prices, I think EMIX is at $84 a ton, and CW is at $81 a ton. So with the 1,300 tons per mile, we're somewhere around $5.2 million in asphalt just to get around that 50-mile threshold.
5.2 did you get last year?
Huh?
How many did you get this last year?
We were close. I hate to say it, of course, I haven't finished this year,
Sure.
We're still in last year. I think we're gonna be really close to around 50.
Okay.
I know, we're a little over a year and a half now, and we're somewhere around 87 miles that we've done since I've been in office, which is I feel like is really good. We're looking at, the thing that has really hurt me the most is some of these roads are are years past of when they should have been done. We're going in and undercutting roads 2 foot in some places and backfilling with surge and base stone and bridging them up because they're rutted out.
What's surge?
Surge is big rock.
Okay, the
Big
shot
rock. And what it is these roads have so many failures in it. If you don't dig it out and repair the base under it, when you overlay it, you're just wasting the asphalt because within a few years, it's gonna happen again.
Right.
So we go in and we replace all the bad culverts. Beth can assure you that I replace all the culverts because she's been seeing it for herself on Chipman Road. And we've replaced, I think on Chipman Road, it's like 16 culverts, and it takes time. And then you go in, we're widening the curves out, we're undercutting the road. We put 1,500 tons of binder that normally is not on a road of that size. Normally, when I was doing city contracts, we would go in, level out a few places and just overlay it. But we've got sections that are so bad that it has to be done or you're wasting the money. So I'm spending a lot of our money, and to what you said, Matt, I'm saying we're close to 50 miles. We might only get 45 just because of the cost of the repairs. So
I remember we had this conversation last year. You know, we kind of, because you wanted, I think, started off between 50 and 55, and I think what we came to was say, hey, can we try to shoot for, because we had been, I think, between 30 and 35 was the average, and we were targeting between 45 and 50.
So what I'm trying to do is get close to that 50-mile threshold with repairs of 800,000 to $1 million.
Yeah, and I mean, you are, so I think ideally, how often do you feel you should replace a road? If it's not.
I'm trying to get the threshold up. I mean, you know, the process has not been exactly what it should be, but what we're doing with our density controls and the compaction rates, we're gonna try to get around the 15 to 17 year threshold.
So, and I'm just explaining this because if you do 400 divided by 50 is not 15, it's 8, right? So you're like, well, wait a minute, that's way more than we need to be doing, but the problem, as I understand it, is that we are, over the course of the next 4 or 5 years, trying to play catch-up so that we can then get on a 15-year cycle. So you're surging now.
That's the goal. The 15-year cycle is 52 miles a year.
So, yeah, that's the.
One of the reasons for the backlog is because of the ice and snow material that was being put down degraded the asphalt.
And David brings up a good point. What has happened in the past, and I'm not adding blame to it. In theory, they're trying to help the public as quick as possible, but we're having icy snow conditions. And what you do is you go out and put, you know, people ask me all the time, why does the county roads in Kentucky look so good? It's because they don't do anything to them in the wintertime. And so salt is very minor to it. The brine is very minor, but what they have been doing in the past years here is they've been mixing in calcium with the salt and just opening it up and pouring it over the salt. It's leaking out of the trucks. And so what they figured out is when they do that to the hills and the shaded areas, and I can take you down some roads where you're driving along, the road looks great, right, for miles. And then you get into these hilly areas and all the shaded areas where the ice and snow went melt, it looks like Beirut. It looks like something that, what happened here? And so the calcium in it, it bleaches out the liquid AC and burns out the liquid AC in the top coat of the surface. And then when it starts, all these voids start coming out, then it starts rattling and breaks down in potholes.
I was gonna address that, because it just, the roads turned to absolute garbage within a month or less. It's like, this road was perfectly fine before they put anything down.
Yeah.
So I've come to the opinion, everybody's telling us to quit doing anything to the road so we can preserve.
Don't care if I sit down.
But, so, are you saying?
What happens with the state a lot of times, Jeremy, and I've talked to the director.
Because the state's obviously doing this with the calcium and just screwing the roads up.
No, what they're doing is they do the brine and salt, but what they do, like when the temperature reached 0, and we did that, it was a perfect storm. So we went in and salted and we blade, but what I do is I blade the snow and ice. If we're getting down close to the road, I don't blade anymore. You know, the plows are just for the snow. And so you scrape it off, put the salt, and you let Mother Nature, the big light in the sky is what melts the, you know, the snow and ice. And when I'm driving up 109 and you've got, and let's say, Jeremy, you've got a few spots that are already raveled and the water has got up under them, what happens is when you get down to 0 and below freezing, it freezes and it pushes it up.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're scraping the roads and you're seeing these state trucks, you're seeing sparks coming off the blades.
No, they do, I've watched them.
Yeah,
all-
and
all
so,
hike.
and so what happens is, they're scraping the road when you don't need to, and what's happened, the asphalt's pushed up, so they have plowed the road up, because it's pushed up, it's higher than the elevation should be, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so, that's something we're never gonna do here. I try to do the salt and the plowing, and then we stop. And then I get beat up for it, but I'm saving our roads, because basically, they just have to wait another day, and it's melted anyway.
So, I mean, just confirming, you're not putting that calcium down in there?
No,
'Cause, like, I mean,
we'll never do that.
You can see the state doing it, because I mean, the interstates are a mess, the ramps are a mess, state highways, roads, Long Pike is a mess, 31W.
Basically, what they
is the
did
mess.
is, they had the asphalt push up, and when they plowed it, they were plowing it with
Oh,
the
yeah.
snow and ice too thin.
No, I watched it, the sparks, you can hear
Yeah.
them, you just watch sparks literally come off.
Yeah, we'll never do that. And the
Good.
thing is that people have been patient with me. I said, listen, I said, the sun's gonna come out tomorrow. By lunchtime, you're gonna see a huge difference. There's some salt out there, and it will melt. And the brine works, here's the thing about brine, it's a gamble. If you're sitting there looking at the temperatures and snow is supposed to fall, and you go out and brine the roads and it's just snowfall, well, it melts it immediately. It's wonderful. And it's very mild. It's very a diluted product. But what happens is, if you miss the temperature wrong and it rains, it just washes it off and you just wasted money.
So I hesitate to do this because I was just on my own and we were doing it, but I'm trying to get us back into here on that, because I know we're getting into some operations.
Sure.
Well, this affects like,
I get it.
this
Yeah.
dollar affects whether he's.
So let
I
me,
had two questions earlier to be getting answered.
so I wanted to, let me ask this one real quick and you go ahead. I'm looking at I'm just trying to do the roll-ups here. Your COLA is a little shy of $150,000 extra, which we're not messing with that. That's kind of was baseline. We put all that out there. In additional, for requested additional salary,
Yeah.
$487,000. David, we've been doing this for everybody. Where are we looking at for post COLA and also post, his request versus market for truck drivers and laborers? As best we can get. I'm just trying to see where we're at to market.
And part of that, I did put a little over $30,000 overtime, and that may be part of it. And the reason I did that is because we do comp time and I didn't know this coming into this office. I didn't realize how many 1 o'clock call-outs I was gonna get in this position. And so what you have is when people come in on Saturday night or Saturday morning at 1 o'clock in the morning, they get comp time, right?
These are all hourly employees?
Yes.
What's the 1 o'clock in the morning call?
Well, when a tree's down and it's blocking the entire road, we go out immediately.
After
and get-
storms, whatever.
After storms, whatever. And so generally what's happened is we've built up so much comp time, it really screws me from the standpoint of, you've got so many people that's
Well,
built up so much comp time that they're having to take
So
off.
I've actually got an interesting thought. Well, so David, I want to first ask you this. I just want to get these market comps, and then I just had a thought. If some of these we could have changed to potentially to non-exempt.
You have to meet very specific requirements such as executive,
So it couldn't do it
administrative.
without these.
Basically, laborers would not fall
Right.
in.
But I will say this, we do have call-outs almost every weekend. On average, yes. I mean, it's amazing.
Is that normal for does every county do that like that? Like, I mean, in the middle of the night or on weekends?
Well, the thing is, people, it's their road, and a lot of times that's the only way out in some of these roads. And so we go out, if we know the road, we'll ask the question, is it blocking the full road? Do we need to bring a backhoe? Is it just chainsaws? And we ask the question because depending on what I'm gonna send out. in a lot of cases, we just go out with chainsaws and get out of the road, and then we pick up the brush that week. And so it is, if you, and of course, it's during storm season too. And we're just coming out of storm season. So we have had a lot of calls on that, and that's the bulk of our comp time because we flat out just mostly work 40 hours during the week.
But is this customary for all counties to do that, or is that just something that you were doing?
It's just a safety feature for us because we have so many people going to work like, there's as many people working on the weekends as there is during the week.
They did.
And the thing is that the sheriff stays out there with lights on so people can see it, because a lot of times it's in a curve, it's coming out the other side, and you don't want somebody just coming down the road and hitting it.
Well, it's amazing. I helped my son and we were done at 4 in the morning. I can't believe how many people are going to work at 4 in the
Oh,
morning.
yeah.
It's amazing.
But I guess we almost have to sometimes get down to Nashville.
Well-
We've gotta be there at 7.
I'm sitting there, I'm out there a lot of times, and it's amazing the people that pull up, and we'll have a traffic jam at 1 o'clock in the morning.
So what can we get on comps?
Right now, I'm looking at the street and public works, and they really don't have things like laborers or truck drivers. The only thing I see would be crew supervisors would be like his foreman's. What is his foreman's making?
Bridge foreman, 76.
The average for a foreman or a crew supervisor for all the larger counties as of 2023 was 62,483. So if you add 62,483, so if you add 1.35 to that, they kind of fall.
So we're, I mean, an area foreman, I mean, a mowing foreman's right there. We're slightly, we would be ahead of that. We'd be more than that.
But oddly enough, they didn't survey, that I can tell, and I'm looking through it again. Dump truck drivers.
The only thing, I mean, here's the thing, of all of the departments, I really would like to have seen comps, but of all the departments, you guys have, we actually know people have left. It's not
Yeah.
people talking about it, it's like
Right.
they've gone. So, but, I mean, so the only reason so I know that there's a market adjustment that needs to be had, but that market adjustment that we're looking at, if we look at it in aggregate, it's looking like 25% in some cases. I mean, 20%, right? Because we gave 5% across the boards, roughly
Right,
150,000, and then you're asking for another almost 500.
What it boils down to, the state did a pay scale, increase in their pay scale. I went to Williamson, Wilson, and Montgomery to see where they were at on their pay scales, and basically where they were starting at was above where we topped out at. I had a guy leave, had 16 years experience, wasn't making $24 an hour, and he was a CDL, Class A CDL and A operator, and that's where the state's starting out at with no experience. And that's just the municipalities, that's just the government agencies. And then and because of COVID, the private sectors just went through the roof. And so, yes, we've got great benefits, but we also are behind on our pay. And so what I was trying to do is give everybody.
I mean, I get it, because you're in a unique situation. Most people that we're dealing with are competing only with other government entities, right? Police are gonna compete only against government entities, teachers, et cetera, but you guys have to compete in the private sector too.
That's
Truck
exactly
driver
right.
doesn't just have to work.
And see, everybody that I got is special. Their experience is paving crews. I mean, they make a lot of money in the private sector. I'm not saying we have to pay them that rate, but I'm saying I need to give them up just to keep them. And I've got a very low head count. I mean, I've got 7 guys on my paving crew, and Rogers Group's got 10 or 11 guys on their paving
The
crew.
majority of your ask is actually coming from mix.
Yeah.
I mean, the majority of so 3.5 million, and of that, 3.5 million looks like it's coming from.
But like I said, the 1.785 is coming back.
Well, yeah, but we still have to front it.
That's right.
And we still have to, the problem we're having, David, you can explain this better than I, the problem we have is that by fronting the majority of that, you're subject to requiring it's counting against your operating budget, which means you have to keep so much in reserve, which means that
They want you
we're
to keep 2
short.
months of expense. They want you to keep 2 months of expense in reserves, the state's recommendation.
But that's the thing, we're looking at the expenses of materials and how expensive it is, but you have to have the people that can put that material down.
No, I'm less, that's what I'm kind
Yeah,
of getting at.
yeah.
I'm not as much arguing.
And
with you
I'm
on your
looking
personnel as I am
at-
your mix.
I'm looking at $2 to $3 above the 5% is what I'm looking at. And the thing is that gets us, and there's nobody sitting in this room that's at fault here. It's over a period of time that I just don't feel like it's been moved up correctly. And now because of COVID and the different things that's played out over the last 5 years, we're just kind of behind the 8 ball.
No, I get it, and we've put out that our number one goal is, other than keeping our tax rate where it is taking care of county employees. We've said that, you see it built in, we built in a whole extra column to try to do both the COLA and this market adjustment. I'm not saying no on that. I think maybe we make an argument on the numbers, but I'm more talking about your mix, because that's where the biggest amount is coming from this year, and that's what's getting us close. So, David, go ahead.
There was a question from Ms. Boyd, and I think that's gonna answer some of your mixed questions. She had 2 questions. One, I think you get $5 million, and she was asking how you're spreading. I told her that was a Toby
Oh, yeah.
question. And then number 2, they were asking what roads qualify for state aid, and I told them, my understanding, what I remember, they needed to ask you was that I had to connect 2 state roads to qualify for state
It
aid on
does.
both ends.
It does. And so what, the governor was good enough, gracious enough to help us give all the counties $300 million. Of that, Sumner County got 5.1. I did I will finish this year at 1.9 million. And this coming budget year will be 1.785. And I'm looking at the next year being, probably around that 1.9. We'll get to where we could finish at the 5.1 million after next year.
So we'll have it whole.
And I've been meeting with the congressmen and some of the senators and stuff, and what they're trying to do is generate maybe another help, an infusion after the 3rd or 4th year. And of course, what the state aid road, I will clarify, the state aid roads make up about 15% of our overall roadways, so it's an infusion into the main arteries.
I understood that part.
These roads are the bigger roads, and so what happens is it's a great infusion because it gets some of the roads that the majority of the people are driving on every day, and so that's why that's so important, because you sit there and you look at Mount Vernon and North Corinth and Corinth Road, and there's several of them that it just makes sense because there's so much the daily traffic on it is so much higher. I'm looking at this, the science of it. I'm trying to be fair in my roadway rating on what roads I pick. Okay, if there's a road that's in dire need and there's 300 homes on it, it's Top Gun. If there's one that's in bad shape and there's 4 houses on it, it's important. But I may go and do some repairs on that while I'm really catering, trying to get the major roads done that are the worst first, and trying to keep it as safe as possible.
Can I ask a question back to labor? I'm looking at these wages in the
Can you
43
pull
to
back to
50,
salaries?
$8,000 a year. And then I'm looking at their loaded costs that are, in the high 80s and 90s. Do the benefits that really are 40% on top of the salary, these are serious. And I don't, I know we've talked about this with the Rogers Group.
Yeah.
That we don't pay our people even with the benefits like some of those groups do, but I'm more familiar with the smaller companies. And I gotta believe, not everybody who leaves you is going to a Rogers Group.
Right.
Rogers is the biggest in the world at what they do. And so, do these benefits mean very little to these people? I mean, is these
Here's
some
the
things we
thing.
should shut off and increase their pay?
you got fast food restaurants paying $16 to $18 an hour.
Yeah, but they don't give them insurance.
I know.
But I mean, if it's all about dollars, we can.
But
we can
the
find
thing
dollars.
is, the thing is
Holidays.
that the dollars, from what I
Yeah,
see,
Holiday pays big.
the money, the benefits mean a lot to people once they get married and start having a family.
Right.
The younger generation coming in, not so much. And so what you get into, you know, you mentioned Rogers Group. I mean, when I was there, you know, I can't even compare what they make versus what we make. It's ridiculous how much more they make. And their benefits are great, bonuses. I mean, you just want to name it, they got it.
Would
And-
the youth that's coming in, would they rather us, instead of us putting their 5% more into their retirement, would they rather have it in their salary? Instead of, I mean, we'll continue putting in the county portion of 6%? 6%, is that what the county puts in? And then the 11 point.
total.
So we could take part of that money, it's everybody though. We
Well,
can
I will
put it
tell
up
you
front and
this.
make the salaries higher. I mean, that's something that we talked about with the sheriff's department last
Yeah,
October.
I say we do it.
And, I mean, it is a thing, but what you need to know, and David can speak to this, it's everybody.
Well,
And
our
not
average-
everybody, like, it's new employees starting forward, but it's all departments. It's
So,
a,
you know, I'm gonna say.
but that
The big-
is a strategy
I'm
for
gonna mention
being
this
more
real quick, just
competitive.
because it's like,
I
it's
think so,
important
too.
to understand also the overall economic environment, right? Like, the average, what's the average rent in Sumner County nowadays? $1,800, something like that?
Yeah.
It's $2,000?
Well,
So what, no, let's do the math. So let's say $20,000, $25,000. So $53,000 minus taxes, you can't live. I mean.
You
I'm just
really
being
pulled
real,
me
you
out of
know
the
what I mean?
weeds
Like,
earlier.
I mean.
Well, I will tell you, the average age of my department is probably over 40. I don't have very many young starts that come in.
That's right.
Our guys are experienced,
I mean.
and every one of them can walk out the door and make $10 more an hour. And that's the part, I'm not asking for $10 more an hour, but I'm saying, I'm wanting to take, and I've told several of you this, I'm wanting to take baby steps in the right
Yeah,
direction.
I mean.
Because I think as long as they see that, this bonus was huge. I can't tell you. I had grown men tear up. I mean, they were just like, we've never had anything like this before. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And I'm telling all of you, thank you too, because I don't know that I've said that to you. So I'm looking at you in the face. It meant the world to our department. It was just $135,000, but it was a big deal to my department. It was huge. And what I'm trying to do is take this and really need some extra money on the payroll. And the thing is, benefits are important, David, but also, you know, when you take the experience that I've got and the work that they're putting into our road system and calculate that versus us just scrapping a paving crew and just subbing it out, you know, the 400 and something thousand dollars turns into millions of dollars, because we're gonna do, probably 40% less work at the same price. And so the thing of it is that when you look at it that way, it's a deal. It's a deal to retain the people and the experience. Now, I've managed divisions for Jones Brothers and Rogers Group. These people that we've got here are great. They're loyal. They love working for the county. I want to keep them. And doing almost 90 miles of road in the first year and a half is unheard of. I mean, we're by the second year, we will have already done what they done the 4 years before me. And it's that, and they want to, they're excited. People are bringing thank you cards by the office and thanking us for the workmanship and going, man, this road looks great. And the thing is we're doing it right. We're doing it exactly like we're supposed to. These roads are gonna last longer. Y'all are getting a great product.
I agree, but my point is that at some point, you have to say, well, what's enough and what's too much and what's not enough? I mean, when I think of people in the contracting business right now who are slamming drywall 6 days a week, 60 hours a week, and they're making $20 an hour, and they don't have insurance, and they don't have all of the perks that our people get, at what point do they say, man, I'm making $20 an hour with no benefits, and this guy's making a salary of $88,000 when you include his benefits. There's gotta be some parity, and that's what we're trying to find.
Well, you're looking at positions that we don't have. I'm talking about positions that they can go, they're skilled, they're certified, they're licensed to do what they do. And the thing is that when you have somebody, drywall people are important, but there's also, that's their market. My market of where my employees are, they are well underpaid, and they can go get more,
So
and they are.
Here's the thing, I mean, I get it, and I think everybody here, like, you've had loss, like, you've had people actually leave. I mean, I don't think everybody here knows you need a market adjustment. I think there is some question on, like, can we do all of this year? I don't know. I think we'll end up some discussion, because it's a big, like, some of this, yes, I mean, some of, the COLA is 100%. The COLA is absolutely happening. I don't see anybody, again, I'm not speaking for everybody, I don't see anybody voting against that. I think that second column there, it's a big jump, and we're not saying no, just saying that, like, just being honest, I foresee that there's gonna be some discussion.
Well, I guess what I look at, I mean, I had a 10-minute conversation when I took office about extra mix, trying to finish out the year, and y'all graciously gave me 1.2 million, 10-minute conversation. Of course, it was ARPA money, and glad we had it. We put it down on the ground, did a good job with it. This last year was 1.4. These are the guys that are doing that $2.6 million. And this is something that we're talking for less than $500,000, helping correct something that has been a problem for years. And because of what's happening now, they can go, I mean, I'm holding on to them. And it's just righting a wrong, and y'all are getting a great product. And I am telling you, these are some of the best guys I've ever worked with, true professionals. And when I had Rogers Group, the foremen were making $80,000, $90,000 a year, and with the benefits and the stuff. You have the paving crew was anywhere from 25 to 30, and that was 10 years ago. And so I promise you, I'm not making this up. They are specialized people, because guess what? It's hot. It's one of the most dangerous jobs in the world. It's rated higher than a policeman.
No, I understand, because you've got employees that were skeptical about you when you won your election, and they've called me back and said, I was totally wrong about Toby. He's a great boss. He appreciates us. I've heard lots of great things about you, and I think probably the reason a lot of them are staying is because you're running the department. But what we're saying to you is, we've got, we're constantly fighting the dollars. That's our biggest job as the legislative, arm of the county. And we're looking for help. What can we do to put more money in their pocket and not spend as much more? I mean, and that's why I asked about the benefits. Are any of these benefits, like dental, does dental not matter as much to them as?
I think they love the benefits, because like I do, I've probably got one of the smallest departments in the county, and I've got probably one of the oldest departments in the county, and they're all very experienced, and that's the reason I'm having trouble, because you can cherry pick these guys, right? And everybody knows when they're getting it, and I mean, some of these people that are stealing them are my friends. I'm wanting to shoot them. And the thing is, and the thing is, you're talking about smaller companies. I've owned the smaller companies. I talk to my friends that own the smaller companies, and they're fussing about, they're paying $22 an hour just for somebody that's breathing and has a driver's license. And I mean, that's serious. I mean,
I know.
And that's without the CDLs. That's without all that. And I've got truck drivers that are making $19 an hour, and they're CDL drivers. And you can go out, I can take off any direction and get a job driving a truck for $28 an hour. And it's just the facts of it. And so this one I'm asking for is not going to get me there. But it's going to come a long way to where if we can do this year and then do the COLAs year over year going from there, that's going to help me retain my guys and do the Class A work that we're doing.
I get it. And here's the ultimate rub. This year, we can do a good bit, but we've got to also, I try to think 3 to 5 years out. And we can't, at least it's hard for me personally to support things that put us on a trajectory toward a tax increase in that time frame. Because we had 2 of them back to back, just like, that's really the balancing point, right? And I'm not somebody who's like, oh, you never have a tax increase. At some point that may be necessary, but given that we just had 2 of them back to back, it's
But the
very,
difference-
we have to live within our means.
I'll say this, the school board, so important. The sheriff must have, EMS, EMA, we can't live without them, right? But they all drive on my county roads, which is the biggest asset for the Sumner County. I manage the biggest asset, 800 miles for Sumner County. And here's the thing, the best thing that y'all can do is give me the money to repair as much as I can this year, because next year it's gonna cost more. I was talking to one of you a month ago, and I sit there and go, if I pave exactly the same amount of tons this year as I did last year, it's $670,000 more money. I said, that's what we're dealing with. And that's the economics of construction.
You're right.
And I've got to have these people, I've got to have these specialized people to do it. And the savings of their expertise and how they do it and the quality job that they're doing is phenomenal. That they are saving you money. There's no waste. They're doing a fine job. They're doing an awesome job. And I've got 40 years to back that up, to tell you that they're doing that.
Well, I've pressed enough, so I'll be quiet.
No, you're making good points. Look, and I get it, because I've got people in my district. Lady just showed me the other day, she was so excited, she saved $1 a gallon on gas.
Wow.
But she goes, it wasn't that exciting. I said, why not? She goes, well, because I spent $1,000 in groceries in less than 3 weeks. She goes, I guess I go to Publix, nothing against Kroger, but she said, it's 10 cents per whatever it is. So I get what they're saying. These guys are struggling financially.
How
too.
many
My biggest
people is in
fear-
her family?
my
$1,000
biggest fear,
a
though,
week?
is,
3 weeks.
Oh, 3 weeks. I was like, oh my God, I can't
Yeah,
imagine.
the biggest fear though is these guys, they can't afford a tax increase either. Like, we can't give them a pay raise. And this was from an employee I heard when I was running. He goes, my pay raise was really a moot point. He goes, because my commissioner raised my property tax. And that's the problem. It's not that we're trying to be impossible here and be hardy. I won't say the word, but you know what I'm saying. But I mean, these people are choking out there. This is reality.
Yeah.
People are having a hard time balancing the checkbooks. Not only these guys, but the private sector. So I want you to know, we're trying our best with all the departments to say, look, what's the most we can do? Sheriff's doing a lot of that
to
too,
to Matt's point, rent and a car payment, you can't make it on $20 an hour.
No, you can't.
I mean,
I agree.
that's the problem, and we always, and I know we're kind of getting waxing philosophical here toward the end of the day, but, everybody says, well, the person working at Chick-fil-A, well, that person's gotta live too.
Exactly.
So,
It's all gonna pay for that person.
Yeah, but the thing is, that person, the Chick-fil-A person can pay too, and I don't wanna lay more taxes on that person.
Exactly.
So it's just, we're not arguing that you don't need it, we're not arguing that you don't.
We're just trying,
We're
we
trying to
only have
balance.
this much
Well,
money.
I mean, I will say, I'll send this out to you next week. I can show you the savings of what we're doing and the economics of what's happened. I've sent this out to some of you to where it shows, the last 5 or 6 years, the deficiency of what we were doing and not doing enough paving. We're paving 28 miles instead of what I'm saying, and showing what that dollar amount is. And when we come over the last 5 or 6 years, there's a deficiency of almost 98 miles, and that's like $11 million price increase now to go back and do them extra miles. So when you look at that and you use the science behind it and you try to project out, well, in my second term, I'm going to try every way I can to do 200 miles my first term. And then when we get out into the second term, at some point, we're gonna reach a plateau to where we're gonna be able to do some maintenance work because we're out ahead and we're not having to pave as much. So some of this is gonna come back to us when it's at it. I mean, it's gonna cost a lot more then. So this money we're spending now is saving money for then. But that's the thing we gotta look at. And you were talking about 5 years. I wish I could go back 5 years from now and been having this conversation with you then, because it would have helped the situation out.
No,
We would have been where we needed to be.
We realize you're digging out of a hole, and,
Yeah.
you know, and the sooner you dig it out, the better off we're gonna be.
Well, that's right.
We
So,
understand
can
that.
I-
We're just asking you to.
Can I
help save
ask
money.
about history, though? I'm curious, and I've been wondering, before in the past, when they didn't lay down that many miles, is it because they didn't have the money for the materials? Or is it because they weren't working as efficiently?
No, they didn't have as much. They
Money
weren't-
for materials?
Money for materials.
So that's why the.
And the
it
thing
was-
is,
okay.
it's sad to me because the prices were so much cheaper back
The
then.
previous
Right.
county commission did not put the money into housing.
I understand. I just wanted to see if that was what it was.
Housing has been neglected.
And then the governor wasn't throwing it down.
Get
And
this
it's-
back in.
And to show, I will say this, when I come into office, just to give you example of how market plays into this, we had,
It's been a long day, Toby, sorry.
Mr.
It's like that at
Mr.
that
Ellis,
end.
do you have any further notes here?
I will say this one thing, is that, you know, when I come into office, we were spending $58 a ton for mix, and that was market driven because DeWeese was up in Franklin, Kentucky. Rogers Group and the others were afraid they were gonna come in and steal tons, and since then, you know, we're paying 44% more in material. And I'm paying $82 a ton now. And so,
But it went up like hundreds of, I mean, from like even 20 to 21, it went up $2 more million a year, just in
Yeah.
1 year. I mean, something like
Yeah,
that.
we're-
Before you got in office, it was way.
yeah, and I mean, we're somewhere around $130,000 a mile, something like that. But I'm telling you, I'm a good steward of y'all's money. I don't thank y'all enough for what you do. You have helped my department since I've been in office with a lot of things. I'm just trying to keep the people and do the best job I can to make the roads the best they can be. Because, you know, in the big scheme of things, 800 miles, that's a liability to us. And when people are swerving to miss potholes and hitting each other, that's a problem.
How much does it cost per mile?
We,
Can you send me the formula, because you know who
yeah,
he wants me to know how much it costs per mile, and I don't
Yeah.
have any idea. Can you send me that?
yeah.
Thank you.
David?
Is that $130,000 a mile, does that include all of your staff and everything?
Everything.
Everything,
Wrap it.
okay.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
All right.
I think that's good. You wanna do the mayor's today?
You know, I think we're all.
Hey, Matt,
Well, he's on the list, but your license and the.
Did we get an org chart, Toby?
Scored how long you want to be here.
An organization chart?
Well,
I have not done that yet.
I think it's-
Can you get us one? We have,
I can get you something similar.
Let's post,
That's
let's
what I'm doing
postpone.
right now, Terry.
We can
See,
catch
like,
up quick.
Well, my only point being
I don't
is
have
your license.
So working on
license
it.
for my truck drivers.
That's when
Because they may be with the
your
asphalt crew one day, they may be with it, because I mean, how we swap around, but I'll try to get something together.
okay.
I don't.
It's-
Well, here's the thing,
Thank
you know
you.
what, I won't make the executive decision. Here's, I want to hear longer than everybody.
Yeah.
You wanna work on it today?
I want to be here longer today than tomorrow. I don't have my, we don't have to work on his, we can.
So do we wanna start to do cuts and whatnot here? Then let's take a 5-minute break. Let's take a 5-minute break.
So, and I would like to,
But
before
here's the
we,
only thing I would suggest, sorry, go ahead, Terry, 'cause I'm gonna make one more note. We're just we are definitely.
so as far as like, yeah, I'm burnt. There's so much information.
Tomorrow's gonna be longer.
And that's what I want to discuss, is tomorrow's gonna be longer. Why are we condensing this so tight? Why can't we come back and work on it?
We almost certainly will.
It's all right.
I mean-
We'll end up with stuff that's left over.
And I think even more than that, I mean, there are some pieces of this that just need a whole lot more dive into them.
I'm gonna put this one to vote, if we wanna stay for 1 extra hour, or if we wanna go. So I'm gonna
get a vote?
You don't get a vote. So I'm gonna put it to vote, we'll stay for 1 extra vote, or we stay for 1 extra hour, do what we can in 1 hour, or we can go. So all those in favor of staying for an extra hour? Aye. I don't wanna, but I'll do it. 1, 2, 3, 4. All those in favor of heading out now? 1, 2. All right, we're gonna stay 1 hour.
So, but I just want you to know, I don't think we're gonna get through this anytime
All right, we'll
soon.
do 1 hour.
Even this whole process, I mean, 1 hour tonight, we need,
5-minute break.
we have a huge budget here.